Hello. Welcome to Transporter Room 3. We are back this week, and we are going to discuss episodes 7 and 8. But who are we? Well, I am Natalie, also known as Dark Aardvark. You can find me on Twitter at dark_aardvark. It is the best place to keep up with me and everything that I do. This is my Twitch channel, so I will not direct you there. You're already here. But yes, I started watching Star Trek Lower Decks because I always watch cartoons. I always give cartoons a try, and realized there was some jokes I wasn't getting, and I wanted to get those. So decided to start watching Star Trek and doing live tweets, and eventually it wound up in this show, this episode right now. But I am joined by in wrong positions because everything was going too smoothly.
No, I'm Robin now.
So I am Robin now. So I'll get that sorted. But how about will the real Robin please tell us a little bit about yourself?
I was gonna say,
There,
which one do you want?
Now you're in the correct places.
My name is Robin. You can mostly easily find me on Twitter at KaikaC. You can also find me on Milady Saito's channel. Right now, she is running 11 days of DMs, and you can find me in a couple of games on Christmas Eve and Christmas. But normally you can find me there on Wednesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and you can find me here on Tuesdays. You can have found me when I was a child watching Star Trek: The Next Generation with my parents.
Nice.
Did not start that sentence the way I wanted to. I watched kind of intermittently, and then did a big rewatch of TNG with my roommate about a year and a half ago. So I would not call myself a real diehard Trekkie, but I've seen all of TNG, and I've seen like the first 5 seasons of Voyager and some amount of episodes of TOS. I always think that I have seen most of TOS, and then somebody will make a reference to something that happened in TOS, and I'll be like, what? And I realized that I think I've probably seen like the same 10, 15 episodes over and over and over again, as opposed to having seen all of them. So there you are.
Goodness. All right. Thank you. And Hope, the same to you, please.
The first part of that's nearly all the same, except you can find me at Hope371 on Twitter. I play on Monday nights on Lady Sideout's channel, and I will be playing Friday and Saturday, not Thursday and Friday, Friday and Saturday there as well for the 11 days of DMs. Yeah, so I'm also one of those people who was watching it with my family as a child, and then a little bit more as a teenager with my friend in high school. I was in the Star Trek fan club for one meeting. So obviously, I'm an expert. I'm looking at strategies for gatekeeping. I'm not really sure where I want to go with that yet. And I'm just really interested in seeing Natalie watch something that is already culturally ingrained into me for the first time.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad somehow that Star Trek: The Next Generation is, even though I was
this new
yes
life form we found who has had no encounter with Star Trek is quite fascinating.
Captain. How is it even possible? But yes, today one of the 2 episodes that we are going to discuss today is season 3 of Star Trek: The Next Generation, episode 7, entitled "The Enemy."
Yeah, I just because it was brought up somewhere. I don't remember where, but for people who watch the episode, probably a brief content warning for some major ableist eugenics.
Yeah.
Personally, it's very brief, and it is definitely not meant as a positive. So I, for instance, as a blind person who was born blind, it didn't really bother me a whole lot, but I definitely could see how it would be upsetting if you suddenly just run into it. Anyway, sorry.
No,
It's okay,
that's
but I just wanted to get that out of
no.
the way.
It's very,
I'm glad you brought it up.
It's very, very much okay. And that's part of the, it's not all gonna be happy, fun, Troy's teal dress times. There's we got to talk about the important stuff too.
Riker's touchiness.
Riker's touchiness.
Just out of the blue, just this entire episode.
Yeah.
Everyone's very like, this is a serious adventure, and we're not fucking around. Like,
this isn't the ship from last week where it was happy good times. This is the hardcore ship.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we begin in media res with an away team down on a planet, right? I think that's how this one begins.
Yeah,
the wind is howling.
They're coming in on the windy planet, which made me realize for the first time too, like, how is it that they don't have like whatever dust was going through that space inside them now? Is it something special about? I'm sure there's like a hand wavy. I'm sure there's probably a dozen hand wavy like sci-fi reasons.
I'm guessing they'd say maybe the transporters filter it out.
Yeah, that beam like saves the space essentially, like clears the space. I'm sure, or something like that.
But yeah, I'm kind of getting to Natalie's point, which I know she's going to bring up later. I mean, you'd think you could hand them some windbreakers at least, or something.
Something. Yeah.
Or once you realize that they were in an electromagnetic storm, could they have like some of those like radiation badges or something? But no, they just send them down with like communicators that don't work and a phaser.
Here's your regular walking around the ship uniform.
I mean, and they knew it was bad because that's why they didn't send data.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but not a radiation badge. Like we have those now.
The radiation badge is when they start failing. That's when. Yeah. No, they do have them. I just actually watched Kyle Hill he's gone and actually visited Chernobyl, and anyway, that's a different.
I mean, people I work with have to wear them.
Yeah.
Like they're really common.
So people like just going to work on a regular day wearing them, kind of like, I don't know, Geordi and
How does Geordi not have a radiation badge working with the ship's engine?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you'd think that working with the warp core all the time would necessitate something like that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't complain about it normally, but they were suffering the effects.
Yeah.
That a radiation badge might mitigate. Like otherwise I'd be like, okay, whatever, we're just not going to pay attention to the fact that electromagnetic radiation can harm people and their senses.
Maybe that. I wonder if that's a thing that maybe wasn't necessarily. Well, it was clearly known because that was the thing of the episode.
The writer might not have known.
Right, but then they stumbled on it actually being bad because that's what. Anyway. Yeah. Speaking of things that return, as long as on the subject of my complaints about what they're sent planet side on, although much less important, we're back to the weird lipstick and uniform color pairings for Troy, which
I noticed it after you mentioned it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm always gonna notice it.
Yeah, maroon and like almost hot pink.
I'm always gonna notice it because like I kind of want to cosplay Troy. So
just not that makeup combination.
Just not that makeup. Well, I mean, I think we all know it'll be in a teal dress if it happens. That's no secret. Yeah.
So part of the grim bit, I almost feel like the Romulanness was like they weren't even interacting with Romulans, but they were acting like Romulans.
It felt a little bit to me, I'm aware of the Romulans from before this, this being this me watching Star Trek Next Generation. But to me, it felt more like we don't want to make up another new alien this week. Which one can we pull?
Well, and they were threatening escalating the war for future views.
True. That made it. Never mind. That's the next episode. I'll save that for next
episode. Like the London core, I feel like comes back as a thing. Like I might be misremembering. So like the whole incidents around this planet, like
they bring it up again.
They get picked up again. I feel like, but I could be wrong.
I mean, that's kind of nice given on how it ends with, particularly with Geordi and the Centurion, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't get like they don't get picked up on, but one of these sort of escalating incidents between the Romulans.
Oh, I gotcha. That the overall threat gets picked up again. I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good, a political thriller sort of episode. It seemed to me a little weird about how adamant Picard was. I mean, I understand like upholding the. I don't know. It just seemed incredibly inflexible. From not from Starfleet, but from Picard in particular. He felt very like oddly. And maybe it's just because I don't know so much about the history of Starfleet and the Romulans, other than obviously I didn't remember because on the beginning of this I was like, are these friends or not? I don't remember. On planet espionage,
not space friends,
not space friends. I don't know. I don't know. I always I think of them as the Vulcans are the good space elves, the Romulans are the bad space elves. Well, it's true. And
I have read the books about the Vulcans and the Romulans splitting off, the whole thing. But it was several thousand years ago, long enough for them to be genetically distinct.
Like that's what, because they say that in the that comes up in this episode where they can't. They can't.
Yeah, they both have green blood and pointy ears, and that's about it.
Yeah, like they can't do a transfusion for the one guy because they're so different. Vulcans and Romulans are so different.
Yet Worf.
Yeah.
Is the donor.
Although, I mean, it seems like
they didn't have any Vulcans on board.
They play a little loose with some of the things. I think they were there's a particular set of enzymes. I think that or whatever that
sure. I mean, and it makes sense that there would be something common enough weaved throughout all bipedal humanoid creatures. It does make a certain amount of sense. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, other thing that just since we're on this subject that is kind of interesting to me, and I know we're really going out of order, which I apologize for.
That's fine.
But kind of in addition to biology, there's the scene where what's his name? Brock?
Something like
Broca?
that, yeah.
Baka, yeah. Baka, is that his name?
Baka.
Yeah, that
Baka
sounds right.
Yeah.
Okay. Is right. Doing Geordi is instructing Baka on how to rig up the visor and the tricorder, and Baka seems to understand all of these technical terms, which really suggests that all of the technology for these various groups is not that different from one another. They're able to understand the basic all their basic components are kind of the same, which I thought was sort of interesting.
Interesting, and it makes sense too. I mean, there's examples of Eastern Bloc taking it way back in the 70s, the cars before there was a world, world market for things like there is now. Their stuff was developed separately, but you could, a combustion engine can be configured different ways, but there's still certain things that need to be true to it. So it's kind of cool that they maybe accidentally stumbled upon that sort of notion, or maybe it was purposeful. I don't know.
Well, I think it's interesting that like that is understandable, but they have like fundamentally different weapons. Like the Federation has phasers, and the Romulans have disruptors. But yeah, like machines are gonna machine, especially sensing machines. I don't think you're gonna have that many different configurations of those.
Can't work that differently, but it is interesting and something I wish was. I don't know. I just keep bouncing up against how I wish that production always had, for ongoing IPs, always had. It doesn't have to be as intricate as like the MCU, and I'm not even a big like comics fan or MCU fan. I just respect the hell out of like the scope that they're tackling. I don't know, and then more stuff nowadays does that. So I'm just, we've talked about it before. But I'm just bouncing up against. I keep bouncing up against it with this because it's just such a long running. Like if Star Trek started today as a franchise, like a lot of the stuff that I'm like, but I want would already be done, I don't know. Moving on from that, I do think Worf's reluctance. I mean, I understand it from multiple angles, particularly in like the story too. But his reluctance to save the life, and he listens to and understands the reasoning from Picard and stuff as to like why he should. And it's not a direct correlation, but I do think like pre-pandemic experiencing me would have just been totally on Worf's side. But post-pandemic me is kind of like, I don't think I don't, maybe I'm just reaching or just in too much of a contemplative mood.
I think they gave him an out though in the conversation with the Romulan.
They definitely
where the Romulan
kind
of was like, "Don't give it to me anyway. I don't want it."
Which was something that I thought was like interesting. Like Worf has to make this decision, but like in like a way, like I feel like it's in there to make. I'm trying to think of how to put this. Given everything else that's happened with medical stuff in TNG, like I feel like that statement is just supposed to make Worf angry and more resistant to doing this ribosome whatever donation.
Sure.
But like kind of it's something that we've talked about in terms of like medical ethics. Like, like I think to us it's sort of like, well, he doesn't want it, so like
can't give somebody a treatment they refuse.
Yeah,
true.
And he refused it while he was of whole mind.
Yeah, so it's sort of like, but it's interesting that like that doesn't come up as like a medical, like as a ethics issue of like.
Oh yeah, because Crusher's still pushing for it.
Oh,
like
yeah,
everybody still wants it, and all Worf had to say was like he already refused.
Yeah, but
Worf looked like he was ready to offer it, and the guy was like, "No, I hate you."
I thought Worf was going to offer it just to spite him, to be honest with you, kind of to one of Robin's points. Too,
I thought the conversation between him and Picard was almost like a test on Worf's part. Like obviously, like what Picard said was true. Like, and you will do it without complaint because I know you.
Yeah.
But like, it wouldn't change Worf's loyalty, but it would definitely change his feelings about the captain if the captain ordered him to do that.
Yeah, that's a good.
And
way
I
to
thought
put
that was a good character development conversation.
For sure. No, yeah.
But we get plenty of that with Worf.
Well, Worf is always testing. Not always, but often testing boundaries, either because that's just part of his nature, and also sometimes he doesn't quite understand, I think, I mean, you get that way less from Worf than like Data, but there is a little bit of it from.
Well, Worf has a culture
From
that
Worf.
he's invested in, and Data, doesn't. He's kind of trying him out, I think.
Yeah. His culture broadly being human, which is not a. Is it?
I think it'd be interesting to see Data try out some other cultures. He doesn't. I haven't seen an episode where he has, though.
That would be interesting. That he is emulating. Do you have something, Robin?
Oh no, you can continue your thoughts. Sorry, finish there.
Nope, that's all right. I mean, that would be interesting. Yeah, if you, the Vulcans would be I think like an easy one. More like the Vulcans have emotions, but like the
logic driven.
The logic driven sort of thing, I think would be appealing. Like at least for a first.
Start out there and get more emotional.
Yeah.
Be a good excuse to not have to develop himself if he just pretended he was a Vulcan.
That's very true. Yeah. I mean, you could probably just have some pointy ears installed or something.
Yeah, why not?
That would be, and that is interesting. Like, how much could Data body mod himself if he wanted to?
Yeah, how much of his total neural components are distributed to his extremities? He didn't seem to suffer any loss when he took his hand off.
Yeah, maybe that just like reduces his like internal storage space or something. I don't know. Data anatomy would be interesting. There's got to be like stuff out there.
But getting back to Worf. I mean, like I sort of putting aside the because the episode does. Like I don't like I guess I don't feel very conflicted in terms of Worf in this. Like I actually feel like it does not put Worf in a particularly good light.
Oh, I don't think so either. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it is totally Worf though. Like it in character, it makes absolute sense that this is how he would decide things, which is one of the reasons why I like this episode, and I like the way that it fills out Worf, that like he has this core to his character and these core beliefs and this sort of core personality, and like we see a lot of the good, but but we also like see where the downsides come in, and I feel like that's like one of the things that I think it's one of the reasons why I like Worf as a character over the series, is I feel like he's one of the characters where they're better about doing that with, where you actually see like a fully rounded person in that sense. But yeah, so like it's like it makes me sad because I love Worf and I always want Worf to do what I want Worf to do, but but I still really
it's
like this episode.
I guess calling it stubborn, I was loading it in ways that I didn't mean to.
No, I mean, I think stubborn is fair. I think that is definitely part of it, like, because it doesn't seem to be in this case like he doesn't actually really cite his Klingon heritage, right? Like it is that the Romulans killed his parents. Like, it's that very personal and very understandable like motive, but it's not like, it doesn't seem to be like there's a cultural reason I can't do this. It seems to be like there is a very personal reason why I do not want to do this.
For sure. No, and I like that he wasn't, as you were saying, I like that he wasn't. I was surprised as a viewer, but I was surprised that he didn't change his mind, particularly with the conversation with Picard, because that's oftentimes what a conversation with Picard does.
Yeah. And I think that like is another thing that's sort of interesting about this episode is it's always interesting to see like when Picard fails as a statesman, like in that statesman maybe isn't the right word, but you know what I mean? Like when he
Yeah.
like he sort of fails in that role of being the like the guider, the moral guider. Like it's always an interesting. It's always fun is the wrong word, but it's always interesting to see like, oh, you thought, hey, you know, he went up the chain. Riker talked to him. Crusher talks to him. Riker talks to him. Can't change his mind, but now Picard's talking to him, so of course he's going to change his mind. Fake out. Nope.
Yep.
Well, it raises the stakes for future conversations from Picard with other people. Like if he always succeeds, then you might as well just skim over it. Like you see somebody walking into Picard's office and walk out, they do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
At some point, you save minutes.
And to Robin's point about it being like I like the notion that it's like both of them sort of testing each other.
Mm-hmm.
Really, but I think instigated by Worf, and then Picard rules with it well, as Picard tends to do.
I mean, and that's like the other advantage of seeing like Picard, right? Like fail is then you get to see how Picard reacts to failing, which is also like an important thing to see. But
for sure, oftentimes more important than how somebody
deals with
success. Yeah.
But the other thing I was going to say about Worf, like just as a real quick aside, I feel like Worf is such a great example of how a lawful character can actually be like very challenging to norms in a way that people might think is chaotic, but can come from a very lawful sort of place. But anyway, that's kind of an aside.
No, that's absolutely something I like to explore, and something I think gets bumped into with the Queen in some of Milady Saito's games, if I can be so bold as to mention my character. I think a lot of the times she's playing by stricter rules than the rest of the people around her, which for a paladin goddess daughter of a deity is a good thing, probably.
But I feel like we should go back to we should talk more about the LaForge.
Absolutely. I can see why they did it. Like, I understand why they did it, and maybe weren't. I mean, it was late '80s. I doubt they were thinking of. I think they probably thought that they were handling it.
They did it to demonstrate that the Romulans are evil, to continue to paint them as evil, because Star Trek needed an evil villain. Klingons couldn't be in it anymore. So like they had to make sure you knew.
Yeah, this was definitely like in that sense it was a very hand wavy shorthand for, you know, these are
we're not going to make friends with them. Yeah.
These are the bad guys. I mean, like, you know, it like bothers me, of course, like, so like, but you know, like, I don't know, but I think I do sort of appreciate that they don't keep, like, he doesn't keep like, you know, the Romulan doesn't keep reiterating it. Like, it's like he says it once and then, you know, like they've set it up, but they don't keep on like reiterating it, which I think
harping on. He's not like making snide comments.
Like it helps a lot in terms of making it like not like.
Then he demonstrates his further practicality by insisting that they actually make an effort to save themselves.
Yeah, well,
which makes him redeemable in terms of working together to reach the beacon. But they don't overdo that either. Like, it's not like, oh, we're friends now. It's, let's get out of this together. One way or another. We'll at least get off the planet.
I mean, I think some of the other sort of, like interesting things here, though, are like, that are a little more complicated maybe, but like, it's, like part of what they're trying to also show here, right, like is and like very complicated
Yeah.
untangling to do about it, but like part of what they're trying to show is that like if this had been Riker would have been stuck. Like the only reason why LaForge is able to get off the planet is because he has this visor, essentially.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so like they are definitely trying to play with this idea of like, you know, disability is not always a hindrance. Sometimes it can give you an advantage. And I think they're also trying to play with the idea that sometimes, you know, disability gives you a flexibility of thinking that you might not have otherwise. I think is another idea they're playing with. I
Jordy is
understand.
the expert on his visor. No one else there knows knows more about it than he does because he experiences it every day.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I find challenging, and I understand that they kind of wrote themselves into a corner because they need the visor to work, is that I think it would have been interesting if it had actually like not been Geordi's apparently his maybe his optic nerves or something like that were deteriorating. Like if it had actually been the visor that had been was being affected. Just because like I at least as a disabled person, as a blind person in particular, like I think like a much more interesting and in some ways anxiety producing in my own life, but also like can be interesting thing to explore is like, sure, technology can help you overcome a lot of things and get around a lot of things, but like what happens when it doesn't work? You know,
yeah,
like
for sure.
and so I kind of understand, like as I said, from a writing standpoint, that they need the visor to work because like that's how they set up how they get off the planet. But like it would have been kind of interesting if it hadn't been, you know. But then that sort of puts the like, you know.
Well, I mean, it could have fried instead of the storm impacting Geordi's ability to interact with him, it could have impacted the visor's ability. You know, just a subtle little shift where the visor still has that functionality, but is essentially
Like
the
connectors are
output.
damaged.
Yeah, the output port is no longer working or something. The port that interfaces with Geordi's mind to allow
It
the
did get
device
banged
to work.
around a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was in the mud. He like slammed his hand out on it, I think. I don't know.
But it seems to me that a way to tweak it, so they could have had their cake and eat it too in this particular situation would have worked, and it's definitely important.
I'm not disabled in that way, but I did appreciate that. I'm not saying it fixes anything, because the Romulan had been disabled to the point where Geordi could help him, so they had to fully cooperate. Like, you know, like he needed to be carried. But it was definitely a forced cooperation. It was a whole weird scene.
I mean, I mean, I'm okay with like the forced cooperation of it. I think to me, like the thing that was more interesting about it is that it was kind of this moment, and they could have played it up more, I think, but you know, like it was kind of this moment where like, right, he's disabled enough that he can't walk, but like he can still do the repair work on Geordi's visor with Geordi's input. And I sort of like the idea that the Romulan, who like had this very eugenics comment right at the beginning of their relationship, is like that, you know, like sort of experiences in both, like with LaForge's help, is like, sure, maybe there are things that you can't do now, but like, you know, like there are still plenty of things that you can actually do. Like being disabled is not the worst thing. And like I feel like that was done pretty well, honestly, especially for the late 80s.
Oh yeah, because I feel like an extension of what he was saying earlier could have resulted in him being like, what if I'm not treatable? Why would I bother saving myself?
Yeah,
And he got over that really
he
quickly.
got over that very quickly.
Indeed, he did.
So like overall, like there are like real, problematic parts with it, but I honestly like, especially for the time period, like I feel like this episode generally does a pretty good job. Like I actually like this episode a lot. So
Sure.
I don't know, for whatever it's worth.
Yeah.
As a disabled
very
person,
good.
I
you're
feel like the message is generally pretty positive and it could be a little more nuanced, but it's more nuanced maybe than some depictions that
Sure.
that you see. So
It's not. It may not be the best, but it also isn't necessarily, except for that, I guess, with the caveat of like the one statement. It's not harmful. Like it's not necessarily good, but it's also not really bad either. It's just kind of, in the end, it's just.
yeah.
Well,
No, your
I guess
your
even
opinion
like
is
more
is
positive than. Anyway, I don't need to
oh, sorry.
rank it, I guess.
Yeah, your opinion is especially valuable, and I'm glad that you felt
Mhm.
comfortable in sharing it with us.
Indeed. I agree. Do we want to say anything more about season 3, episode 7?
I like the twist on
we can always circle
standoff.
back. Yeah.
I like how just as watching these in a pair, I really like how the smarmy sliminess of the Romulan captain really sets up pretty well the slimy smarminess of what's his face in the next episode.
Yeah. So season 3, episode 8.
I must have been misinformed, Captain. I had no idea there was more than one person.
Yeah, they just made. Oh, I kind of admired how firmly they maintained that lie.
The
just
diplomaticness
sort of, like,
of it, yeah.
Oh, I had no idea. No, really. So one visual note about this next episode, and I don't know if I'm just noticing it or if it like they did actually change the lighting, but the people with blue eyes were like lit weirdly. Their blue eyes were weird.
I did not notice that this episode. So I don't like this episode.
No.
Not a fan.
Yeah, we can pretend some parts didn't happen because it was creepy.
Yeah. Let's start off with the dark side of replicators, where enforcing dietary regulations. The first time we've ever heard of it, as Hope points out in a response to the Twitter thread, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
About how like we've seen Wesley get chocolate mousse before.
Here's the thing that I'm unclear on with this whole thing. And I feel like it's unclear because it's unclear. The writers kind of want to have it both ways. But like, it seems like part of what's happening here is that the replicator can replicate things that are chocolate mousse like.
Yes.
But not exactly chocolate mousse. And like what Troy wants is actual chocolate mousse. So she like kind of like, I feel like we see this with alcohol, where like the replicators can make synthahol, but it doesn't actually make alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, they can program it to make alcohol, but they have to get around some.
Yeah, they have to get around it. I mean, and this comes up actually in Lower Decks, I feel like.
Well, this is the first indication that the modifications they're making are making the food more nutritious. It's never. I don't think it's been implied before, so this might be the first time.
Yeah, other than
I don't remember being implied.
Other than with the synthahol, that it doesn't actually inebriate you, which is, I think, the only thing that's come up before.
I just don't. It's like somebody who read a bunch of like Kathy comic strips. decided they wanted to write a Troy-centric Star Trek:
Yeah.
The Next Generation episode.
Although Troy's love of chocolate is something that is a recurring thing.
Sure.
There's got to be some species somewhere that doesn't like chocolate.
I guess in the
Can't
pairing,
be this universal thing.
in the pairing of it, like the love of chocolate and the like, I don't know. She's a Troy. In the other episodes, I have read as like a strong, independent woman who has no problem communicating her feelings with her friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yet in this episode, she's, and I mean, I liked seeing like the glimpse of her like overworked and like coming. It made it. She was very grounded and real in those moments. And on one hand, but on the other one, how this episode rolls into the like that. Like the pickup artist, like you got to be mean to women. Like women don't want a nice guy; they really want him to be mean to them. Sort of thing. Like I don't know, the combination of it, I didn't like it. Like it, I guess maybe it would have bothered me a little less if it was, Dr. Crusher.
I feel like what they set up was Troy's in a really vulnerable moment of burnout.
Yeah. So
here's someone to come and take advantage of that.
Yeah. So let's put in somebody who has no qualms about taking advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I do like, you know, being the ship's counselor. First of all, she's the only counselor I'm aware of, and the ship is freaking gigantic. So
mm-hmm.
she's
there's no counselor conferences ever. No one's
yeah.
meeting in the office. They're not talking. They're not gossiping.
The Dr. Crusher has, you know, the other medical staff, but it just seems like it's just Troy. So yeah, I mean, I love like getting the glimpse inside. And like even like the relationship between the two of them, if he just would have been a little different. I mean, we would have lost the third act conflict where she outs him as being an empath because of the situation, but I don't know. He wouldn't have been gross then. And just the way, well, first of all, I can't believe Troy was like, I don't know. I could just complain about this episode for an entire hour. if I'm let to do so. I do want to, so I don't like all of that. Anyway, I also don't understand why Starfleet is supporting, like, selling a wormhole.
Those people are outside of the Federation, and they're just basically doing the conference. It's a pitch. And Picard just has the fanciest ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I the impression I get is that they, oh no.
And I don't expect. I don't.
Sorry,
expect,
no,
like,
sorry, I was got distracted by
okay.
the cat. I was gonna say, like, I think that they asked the Federation to host the negotiations.
Sure, I just don't. I don't. Like, yeah, they're bidding on it. I don't know. It just. I don't know. I get it. Part of it is that it's in this episode with the Smarby guy. Like, why is Troy even interested in him? He's got some woman hanging off of him when he appears, and Troy still gives him the like.
Goes in, checks his social media basically.
Yeah. Pretty much. I don't know. It's just, anyway. I mean, one of the bright sides is the iconic freaking out of uniform in her personal clothes looks that we get from Troy, because I love them. The off the shoulder dress, the little like thing that's like the collar, and they're all fantastic. Also, squirrely Ferengi. I love me some Ferengi because they're just squirrely and.
Those
they were a great addition.
As an aside, those the two people who get trapped on the other side of the wormhole come back in Voyager. in an episode.
Oh, do they? That's funny.
Yeah, they do, because they're trapped in the Delta Quadrant.
That's delightful.
How far ahead is Voyager?
A couple of years, I guess.
Oh, just that.
Yeah, it's pretty contemporaneous, I think. It's
Yeah.
I mean, that's interesting. Someday I'll get to that point in Voyager, I'm sure. I do love, there's a character, Mr. Mendoza. He's the chief, or the in charge of negotiating on behalf of the Starfleet. And he has this scene where he stumbles down the hallway and collapses right as he enters the med bay with Dr. Crusher. And the actor that plays Mr. Mendoza, I love it. Like, he understood that he was playing. He understood that this role was in Star Trek. Is the best way I can put it, and it's just delightful. Like, kind of theatrical, but still in the realm of believable. I don't know. I loved it, and I think he nailed it. I do like how they make a point too with the Dr. Crusher taking care of Mr. Mendoza is very clearly like, obviously it's not life threatening, and just a plot servicey, very like heavy handed way that I think like they going out of their way, because like the Ferengi, when they were doing he gets sick because they have this like biological agent that's based off of the Ferengi's own biology or whatever, and put it on his hand, so they'll have like an allergic reaction, and they make sure in that conversation with the Ferengi where they're setting it up to be like, I want to be clear, it's not going to kill him, and they're like, that's not, I don't know.
I definitely don't want to kill him.
I understand why they needed to do that, because they wanted to. This episode was about other things, and they didn't want that to be like a distraction for people, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it maybe it's because we took last week off, but it feels like there's been forever since Adorable Little Data Moments, and when Geordi is lamenting like the possibility of being trapped in the shuttle as they're going to check out the wormhole, and Data says, on the bright side, you would have me to talk to. And like, they're good enough friends that's not. I mean, that's a joke to the audience about the like, well, wouldn't it be terrible to be trapped in a tin can with the robot who wouldn't get it? I don't know. I'm rambling so much now.
Okay, so I do want to go back to last episode for one little thing.
Sure, absolutely.
Pressure. I expected a comment about her saying good old-fashioned country medicine when she was talking about keeping his fever down and letting him rest.
I missed it. Otherwise, I would have absolutely made a Dr. P's soup reference for sure. But I missed it when the episode was aired. Something must have been happening.
Well, I reminded you, so you can enjoy that.
Yeah. Oh God. Good old-fashioned country medicine. There's just straight up 30 seconds of an oiled foot getting massaged in this episode, that's the only reason why I want to point it out, because
it was a lot.
It was a lot of one foot getting rubbed.
There's also a lot of time spent on really awful kisses, and
yes.
Like his first move being messing her hair up. How dare he? I was mad.
She's a curly-haired goddess. You keep your dirty mitts off of it.
You touched her hair.
Yeah. I don't know. It just. I hate him.
Yeah, it was a lot of foot.
A lot of foot, yeah. Which I mean,
foot.
Not kink shaming. I'm just like, you just don't see a lot of tight shots on oiled up foot massages on network television.
I don't think you see a lot of feet on Star Trek either.
No, not really. I love it. I've seen the memes, and I think it's happened in an episode before that we've watched, but this like the very jazzercise future outfits with
Yeah,
the
this is.
Crusher and Troy.
I don't.
They were so 80s. They didn't even step into the future for those outfits.
No.
They really didn't.
It was.
Yeah.
This is the ideal in fitness wear. It will never change.
And I was like, did I turn on Cinemax? Like, did Cinemax happen? And is this like gonna turn into something softcore in a second?
Where is this
like,
going exactly?
Yeah. This is an episode of like Taxi Cab Confessions or something. Like, what's going on? Because it was very like, oh, we're women in tight things, and we're talking about our sex
We're
lives.
flexing and
scandalous!
Saying how much sex makes us limber.
Yeah. Okay, like, you're unusually limber this morning, and then just like it's like whoever wrote that scene like had just gotten like they got their big break in writing for a feminine hygiene commercial or something like the year before. And somebody at Star Trek saw that commercial and was like, get that writer in the Star Trek writers room now. We need that energy.
I bet that writer is so disappointed now to know the 30 years in the future we're wearing yoga pants. We're not messing around with double layer leotards.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna be comfy.
One thing I do like about and again, like, I'm all about seeing Troy make bad decisions for herself and stuff. Except for with this fucking guy. But I love that I love that Riker is the kind of guy that you totally believe usurps this sort of thing, but how he goes for like, he tries to throw Riker off of his game with like, I'm banging your lady now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I understand and know that will work with probably the average, especially in the late 80s with the average cishet man. But like Riker's the wrong one, baby. And he doesn't disappoint because, you know, like,
she already almost got married.
Yeah. If your plan to win is to try to make Riker feel like a cuck, the man is too divested of toxic masculinity. Not saying that there isn't any in there, but it's in such small trace amounts that he's impervious to that, and that's part of why he's so beautiful and delightful.
Yeah, I do like when he's like, it's the first bad play I've seen you make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, yeah.
And you could see that, like, whatever his name is, was just like, oh, I messed up. Like, because he's an empath, so you could actually tell. Like,
yeah.
He just kept pushing on. He just kept saying it, and he had to know he wasn't winning.
I mean, yeah. And probably for, like, you know, a little bit of hubris, but also a little bit of the, like, oh, this one just needs to be needled once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Riker's she's her own woman.
She is. And then, oh, man. And then their little button-up together, Troy and the fucking peacock jerk, and he's like, we should be together because you could make me better. Like, oh! Put him in the airlock. I will.
I know. I really love Troy's response.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really amazing.
I already have a job.
I already have a job as a counselor.
Like, yes. And the show seems to try to force this idea upon you that it's like a mixed ending, that they're like a Romeo and Juliet type ending.
No, we were cheering
with, like,
for her.
With like the music at the end, and they're like, because it's not happy, it's not celebratory, it's kind of like, this is how it is, isn't it a beautiful tale of like, and like, no, man, good one.
Oh my god.
I guess
those love at first sights are almost always abusive. It's terrible. Like, you can't trust it.
I guess I didn't really notice the music. I mean, because I feel like to me they were laying it on that he was getting his comeuppance. I felt
and maybe
because partially not just with Troy, but also with the you screwed up for your world.
Oh yeah, he got pantsed in front of the entire
pants in front of all these people, and your world is out of a lot of money.
Oh man, I woke up
from
this crazy dream where I showed up to school naked, and he's like naked in school telling his friend that Yeah. I mean, that is pretty great. But and maybe I might be putting too much stock into it. That might be just like the standard end theme for a Star Trek: The Next Generation episode.
Mm.
And again, me bumping up into my millennial bullshit where every piece of media needs to be curated exactly for me.
I mean, I could be, yeah, like as I said, I don't really remember the music. I think I guess I just took whatever kind of regret was involved was more the regret of like Troy being like, oh damn it, I fell for a
I fell
shithead.
for that. Yeah.
You know, like more like
For sure.
I can't believe I made myself vulnerable to this one right here.
Well, that was reinforced by her discussion with Crusher too, where Crusher was
For
like,
sure.
"No, it wasn't my husband.
Yeah.
I married somebody else."
Yeah. So I mean, that's really all I got, I guess. Oh, they I think they've changed the neckline for Troy's steel dress.
Mm.
And I approve. It's kind of more flat on one end now, and then it's like, I don't know. It's like they took a sort of V-neck and put it so one side. I don't know. I like it. Gives a little future flair to it. So I need to get a bunch of teal scuba knit fabric and figure something out sometime, I think. Anyway, do we have anything? Oh, go ahead.
Yes, I was going to say that reminds me of the other thing you pointed out about LaForge with all the sand in his shoes in the previous episode, and all I could think about is there's the Simpsons where it's Lou and Chief Wiggum, and like Lou has to go like into a lake to retrieve something, and he's like taking off his shoes, and Chief Wiggum's like, Lou, the shoes are part of the uniform.
Make it go in. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
I remember that.
It's kind of how it feels sometimes with the Star Trek. It's like, nope, that's the official uniform.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you don't get anything else.
It's the same uniform you wear when you're sitting in your leather chair, walking around the air-conditioned. Yeah. Anyway.
Sorry, that was
no, you're fine.
there, but
that's what this show is.
But you're talking about, yeah, Troy's outfit made me think about other outfit problems, or not problems, but eccentricities.
Yeah, eccentricities is the right way to put it. But that will do it for us this week on Transporter Room 3. I hope you join us next week when we talk about episodes 9 and 10 of Star Trek: The Next Generation Season 3. Until then, I am Natalie, also known as Dark_Aardvark on Twitter. It is the best place to keep up with me. We are within 40 seconds of an hour, so I will close this out and say you can also find Robin at KaikaC on Twitter is a good place to keep up with them, and Hope at HopeTracy71 is a good place to keep up with him on the Twitter. Give us a follow if you like us, and if you're not already watching us on Milady Saito's channel on our, pretty much if she's got a game, I think you're gonna see one of us in it, at least on the regular scheduled games. And then also, oh gosh, I guess who just realized that I was gonna do a raid, and I haven't done a raid forever, and I don't.
Is she on though?
Remember, maybe not. Oh, she is not.
Yeah. I was wondering because I saw her. It's not interesting detail. Never mind.
Never mind. So anyway, we will not be raiding over there because the channel is not live to be raiding at. Yeah. So anyway, but check out Milady Saito's channel through the holiday, and you'll see one or perhaps both of the other two playing in those games, and good times. But until next week, okay, bye-bye.
Bye.